welcome to the Padawan Podcast, Apocalypse Movies, all Star Wars podcast, where we geek out on everything from the galaxy far, far away. Welcome to the first video version of our Star Wars podcast. I am Jake Berlin, aka Qui-Gon Jake, and I'm joined today by Gio Ramos, aka C3GO, and Keith Barnes, who we have yet to find a Star Wars name for. Let us know in the comments if you find anything for his name. We're trying to figure that out. We'll have it by next time. How you boys doing?
Doing good. I can't wait. I've been waiting to talk about this. It's been, what, a couple days now?
A couple days, yeah. He's alluding to the Han Solo news. That'll mainly be what we're going to be talking about here on Padawan today, because it really is the only movie news that's going on. So, Keith, how you doing, man?
Doing great.
First Padawan.
First Padawan. I'm happy to be here. I love talking Star Wars.
Yeah.
Do you? You don't sound like you love talking Star Wars.
Well, you know.
Come on, man.
I don't like all this. I don't like all this tension. I like Star Wars. Star Wars is supposed to make us happy.
Tension is only allowed at DC.
Exactly right.
Okay,
this is
all right.
This is WB stuff.
Yeah, I started.
I'm going to bring it this time. Okay.
All right, so we're going to be talking mainly for our movie news all about the Han Solo drama that went on this week with the directors and the new director and everything that kind of came out. And then we'll get into some books and movies, and Jacob Bartley is going to join us on for that. It'll be him and I talking comics and Rebel Rising, the new Jyn Erso book. But let's get right into it. Earlier this week, the shocking news came out. I think it was Tuesday afternoon that Phil Lord and Chris Miller, it was announced that they are no longer a part of the Han Solo spin-off via the Hollywood Reporter. They stepped down as directors for the movie. It later came out that they were actually fired, but we're going to kind of go through this step by step, piece by piece. Let's go first reactions here. And Gio, I'm going to shoot to you first. When you first heard this news, without hearing anything else that came out, what was your first reaction to Phil Lord and Chris Miller, directors of the Jump Street series and Lego Movie, stepping down from the Han Solo spinoff?
Now, was the first reports, did they mention fired?
No, it was creative differences.
Creative differences. I thought that was bull. I thought that there was more than just creative differences. There has to be more. There's always
Seems
more.
like it always is, yeah.
It always is. So my first reactions were surprised, but I'm like, okay, I want to know more. What's up here? I think that was everyone's reaction. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, I actually, for the first time probably ever in the creative differences thing, I actually believe that it was creative differences.
Okay.
And it may have been me reading into a little bit too much, but the Hollywood Reporter's article, they had said that Phil Lord and Chris Miller had creative differences with Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote the film, who's been in Star Wars for a very long time. And to me, like, it's a bummer that they're not on this movie anymore, because I think they would have brought an extremely interesting and creative take to it.
Oh yeah.
But Lawrence Kasdan is the guy who created Han Solo. He wasn't a part of A New Hope, or a Star Wars as we'll say, but he really shaped who Harrison Ford's character was in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
He helped with The Force Awakens. He wrote this movie with his son. And so I get that Lawrence Kasdan kind of has like this whole he's my baby type thing. But
see, that's dangerous though.
Yeah, it is. I totally agree. Like, I'm kind of back and forth on this. Like, I agree with kind of both sides.
Yeah.
But I also think that Lawrence Kasdan isn't wrong, because it's really his character.
But
he created the character.
Think about the original trilogy. George Lucas needed people to kind of, argue against him. This is a similar situation. George Lucas, he was a little bit too attached to those movies.
Yeah.
And had Irvin Kershner and I forget the other director's name.
Yeah, he didn't even direct the last two. Last two of the original trilogy.
It's like Kasdan. Yeah, this is your person right here. You took it to another level. But I mean, I don't know. We're talking about Lord and Miller.
Yeah, it's an iffy thing. Keith, what do you think, man?
Kershner did a lot of stuff that Lucas did not like. A lot.
But look at the outcome.
But
yeah,
made
exactly.
the greatest Star Wars movie of all time. Just to get that.
Greatest movie of all time.
Greatest movie of all time, absolutely. The first thing Lord and Miller, leaving another project. That's the first thing I thought.
Yeah.
Now, granted, not the same situation with The Flash, which is a mess. That's totally not their fault. And stepping away from the Lego sequel, which
early in the process,
early in the process,
to jump on the Flash, and then eventually leaving that to jump on Han Solo.
So my first thought, and I think I said it to you guys, messaged it to you guys. What's with these guys?
Yeah,
but
it's iffy.
Normally I would be on the side of the artists and the directors, but I'm kind of trying not to be overly Lucasfilm fanboy, like everything they do is right, because it's not.
No,
I'm sure that Lord Miller had. We will never know. That's the problem with this.
We won't ever know the truth.
We don't know what
they obviously
exact
care
truth.
about the character.
Yeah,
I think
otherwise
they do.
wouldn't have
Yeah.
signed on.
And we'll never see what it is that they were going to do, what they wanted to do, which is too bad. But whatever it was, it didn't mesh with what Lucasfilm wanted. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, so kind of going forward and what happened next. The next morning, the news broke that they didn't leave the project. They were actually fired from Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, and the creative team there. And the reasonings were, on top of creative differences, they didn't understand the character of Han Solo, and they tried to bring too much comedic elements to not just the character but the film in general. And so let's just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Gio, I'm going to go back to you. First off, what do you think about them actually being fired instead of stepping down? And second, if those reasons are actually true, if that's really the reason why Lucasfilm fired them, what do you think of it?
All right, so I think if you're gonna fire directors, particularly directors on the level of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who have proven film after film that they understand not only the source material that they're given, whether it be Legos or like an 80s TV show, that they're able to spin it and make it this interesting take, and make it fun for modern audiences. I mean, Han Solo's a character that's been around for what, 40 years now?
40 years.
Since the
This
original
year, 40
movie.
years, yeah.
So maybe they wanted to take the same approach to kind of like how Jump Street, don't take away what made the TV shows so memorable, but had a little bit more to it, translated to
A little modern day flair.
Maybe that's what they wanted to do with this young Han Solo, like, okay, we don't want an exact replica of Harrison. We don't want Alden Ehrenreich trying to be Harrison Ford. We want Alden Ehrenreich trying to make it his own character. Maybe the understanding was lost somewhere in the translation. Who knows? But I mean, and then they go on and they fire them. It's like, I don't know. I mean, how do you not, from the jump, get on
in that first meeting, how do you not
get on
understand?
the same page?
Yeah.
And if there were red flags, how do you not okay, stop it. Okay, we're gonna push the movie later. We're gonna find something else. We're gonna see if we can come up with something. But no, Lucasfilm just said, okay, we're gonna go through with it. Maybe they'll see our direction or they'll see our vision. They'll share it as we go on. And they lost. They bet on that and they lost.
that's the part that's troubling. I don't say troubling me, but I can't get around. It's and they're almost done shooting.
3 weeks left.
3 weeks left for a movie that's coming out in less than a year.
Yeah.
Which when I saw the news, that was the next thing I thought. Oh man, this movie comes out next May.
Yeah.
And they fired the directors. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And so you're right. I mean, at some point what point during production, looking at the material that they have, did they see, okay, this isn't working? Because obviously within the last week or so,
it was quick.
Because usually, and that's one of the great things now about shooting digitally now is that you can see the stuff right away. In the old days, and there's tons of movies you see production problems where they didn't catch stuff that wasn't working until days later or weeks later, and productions took a lot longer. Nowadays, you can see the stuff a lot earlier. So
watch the dailies.
You
right?
watch your dailies
Well,
immediately as soon as you shoot them.
And yeah, that's one of the things that I think it was either Hollywood Reporter or someone said that the film has been in hiatus and they were reviewing footage.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what kickstarted it.
Right.
And then it was also what just came out, I think it was this morning, and it's from Entertainment Weekly, that Alden Ehrenreich, who plays Han Solo, he's the first one who expressed some kind of concern for Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the direction that it was going, or he didn't like the way that they were directing him, maybe. I personally don't know. I haven't read the story yet, but I know that that's kind of the case. What do you think about the star of the picture, the guy who's playing Han Solo, who's going to be playing Han Solo for what we think is going to be at least another few movies, expressing concern for the director such late in the process?
All right. Who the hell do you think you are? I'm sorry. What have you done? Yeah, you've done Hail Caesar, and I liked you in Hail Caesar. Granted, your part was small.
Yeah.
But really? Oh my God, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's like, okay, are you just being a teacher's pet here? Because you have a big opportunity to be one of the most iconic characters in the history of cinema that you're just going to play along? Like, I don't know. It's just, it really bugs me. It's like,
well, let me counter you real
they're
quick.
the ones who casted you. Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Let me counter you real quick. So you're saying that he basically doesn't have the right to say that.
No, he does have the right to say it. Anybody has a right to their own opinion, obviously, but...
So would you rather him not say something and go with what the directors are thinking, or maybe if he studied this character, talked to Harrison Ford, Lawrence Kasdan, and he doesn't think it's the right way, you would rather him not say anything?
I want to know how much did they take his opinion into consideration? Because Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they probably did just as much studying, if not, we know these guys.
They're Star Wars junkies.
They're Star Wars junkies, and any project that they get on, they prep.
Just like any other director.
Any other director. So it's like, hold in.
Well, if he was the initial person to, get this ball rolling, I mean, because the report was it was months ago that he raised his concerns.
Yeah.
So obviously they were.
So they might have thought about it, and then watching the footage, they're like, oh, maybe he's actually right about this situation.
Listen, a lot of pressure on him, man. He's taking over Han Solo. One guy that made this role, it's synonymous with this role, is Harrison
For
Ford
40 years.
for all this time, and now he's going to be this guy. If it doesn't work, he won't be able to shake that for a long time. He's going to be Hayden Christensen.
Oh.
What if Hayden Christensen had stepped up and said, I don't like the way this
But
is working.
I would even argue...
He should have.
Anybody during the prequel production should have stepped up.
Right. So
I would even argue that Alden Ehrenreich has bigger pressure. Han Solo is arguably probably the most popular character out of everyone.
outside of Vader.
Yeah, but he's a good guy.
Right,
He's
exactly.
a good guy.
Exactly right. He was my favorite character as a kid. So, just to make, I don't know if it would break his career if it didn't work, but
it would damn near hurt it.
Major hurt.
Well, we saw what happened with Hayden Christensen. He played Anakin and Vader.
Yeah.
He disappeared for about 10 years.
And he's not a bad actor at all.
I mean, he's showing up in small things here and there, but he disappeared for a long time.
Right, and all because of the direction that.
And we can
Direction
also even go back to Jake Lloyd, who played young Anakin.
Sure.
He left acting after playing young, and
poor guy.
He got in some big trouble, and
Yeah.
so I don't know. This is where I kind of go back and forth. Like, it's iffy, and what happens, and
Just be careful, Lucas and Alden. Be careful what you wanted. You wanted him gone. He's gone now. Okay, Ron Howard's in, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, so let's. Yeah, I mean, after the Phil Lord and Chris Miller left, we were wondering, okay, who the hell is going to take this over? When is it going to happen? Lucasfilm was on the jump right away. As soon as it came out, there were already rumored names. Lawrence Kasdan, who's been involved in the Star Wars lore for a very long time. Joe Johnston, who's been a fantastic director for decades.
Yeah.
And Ron Howard, who did Rush. He does the Da Vinci Code movies, Willow, Cinderella Man. There's all kinds of movies he does, but...
Splash.
Yeah, I mean, Ron Howard's probably the most popular out of all of them, probably the most well-known.
Yeah.
Some were voting for Kasdan because he knows the character, but because of Directors Guild stuff, that couldn't happen.
Yeah.
Joe Johnston as well, but Ron Howard ultimately got the gig. Keith, let me shoot it right back to you, man. What do you think about him jumping on board as director now, and how do you think he's going to be able to handle going with this movie forward?
He can handle it. Ron Howard, he did Apollo 13.
There's the other one.
He's
How many years ago was that?
A long time ago.
Rush is only 3 years ago?
But
Wow, whatever.
I like Rush.
Listen,
Rush is
hey.
good.
Rush is very good.
Rush is
He's
fantastic.
Richie Cunningham, I watch Happy Days on MeTV every night. He knows what he's got it. He's a Hollywood lifer. He knows how to direct. He knows his characters. He knows Lucas. He knows Lucasfilm.
Well, he's a veteran.
And
That's
he's a
what
vet.
they needed.
And he knows. Yeah, I think he'll be more. He's gonna finish. He's brought in to finish the job, almost like with Joss Whedon with the Justice League thing. They're bringing him in to finish the job. He can do it. It's a bigger task than what Joss Whedon is doing because Ron Howard is essentially going to have to reshoot a big chunk of this movie.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much they're actually going to recut of this movie.
I do wonder.
If all of that is the case, I wonder if they're going to go back and shoot a whole bunch of other stuff, because in those articles that came out, it said that Lord and Miller, like in the reshoot process, that they were going to bring someone else on board to reshoot,
Yep.
and they wouldn't give that up. That was pretty much the last straw.
Right.
And so I wonder if they're going into the final days of production and reshoots with saying, okay, we're reshooting 80% of this movie in so many months, it's scary. So, what do you think, Gio?
I mean, Ron Howard's basically a tool with a name. I'm sorry to say it, okay? Ron Howard, yeah, he did Rush, but I mean, let's be honest, his best days, his best work is behind him. I mean, I haven't seen Inferno, but
No,
you know, from what I
probably
hear,
a straight to DVD movie.
yeah, from what I hear, it's not that good. And all right, let's be honest, all right? For a lot of people, even Star Wars fans, what made the Han Solo movies so, you know, enticing, interesting, was the fact that Phil Lord and Chris Miller were coming on board, okay? People can be excited for a Han Solo spinoff, but they're a little hesitant because, okay, this is Harrison Ford. How many people actually know who Alden Ehrenreich is?
Nobody.
Hardly anybody.
Yeah.
But the names Phil Lord and Chris Miller, you're suddenly like, okay, all right, I want to see what this can do. Yeah, the guys from Jump Street? Absolutely. But now you're not getting the guys from Jump Street. You're getting Ron Howard, who, again, he's a name, but his best days are arguably behind him. So, I don't know. What does this do for the Han Solo movie, honestly? Like, you don't have Phil Lord and Chris Miller attached. You have Ron Howard, and it's like, okay, my uncle's excited about that, but, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's iffy. I mean, it's really scary because the movie does come out in less of a year as of right now. There's no release date change, and we'll see what happens with that. But it puts it in a very, very tough spot.
Yeah.
And if they end up cutting a lot of this movie, they have a lot to reshoot, and that means that Lawrence Kasdan and his son are probably going to almost be rewriting and rechecking things, or maybe going back to the original script that maybe Miller and Lord have kind of not scrapped but adjusted with their style in a way. I don't know. I mean, it's a very crappy situation, but I also trust with what Lucasfilm is doing, because Rogue One went kind of a little bit of issues towards the end of production, into reshoots and that stuff, and they came out. I mean, look how that movie ended up. This is obviously bigger. This is much bigger, but the situation, I don't know. I mean, Lucasfilm has proven in the past that they can get it right. Ron Howard is definitely a question mark. I agree. His best stuff is arguably behind him. He does have some good things here and there. Like Rush is absolutely fantastic to me, but In the Heart of the Sea, not what it could have been. The Moby Dick movie with Chris Hemsworth, but yeah, it's a very, very tough spot. So
I think George Lucas needs to come in and set things straight, man. All right.
Lawrence Kasdan's not enough on set. He's got some knowledge.
What were you doing, Lawrence Kasdan, from January to now? What were you doing?
Yeah. So any last thoughts, man?
I would like to see Joe. When I saw the names,
Joe Johnston.
I would like to see him get that shot. I love Captain America, the first Avenger, which he directed. He's a great art department guy from the 70s and 80s. Worked on the Indiana Jones trilogy. And I would like to see him get a shot with Star Wars. I think he would have deserved it. I would have gone with him personally if I was running Lucasfilm, but Ron Howard would be fine. Listen again. They're just bringing him in to finish the job.
One, I think having Lawrence Kasdan on set, I think it's going to help him a lot.
Yeah.
And most of the movie's already shot, and so the characters already know what they're doing.
Right.
So all he has to do is come on set and kind of adjust.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. Any last thoughts, Gio, before we move on?
First off, I want Lord and Miller to make the best Flash movie ever. Okay. Anyways, all right.
Yeah.
Anyways,
well, that I wonder if that was a tipping point, because it came out that during this break they actually met with DC about the Flash movie again.
Yeah.
I wonder if that has to do with it. You know,
I
the
hope
whole
so. That way everybody wins. Lucas.
Disney Marvel thing, or Disney Warner Brothers thing. Maybe there actually is a little bit of a rivalry. Who knows?
So all right. Final thoughts. Lucasfilm basically did. Have you guys seen the movie Moneyball? Right.
Yep.
They basically did what Billy Bean did in that movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy is Billy Bean. She let go of like these two all-stars and brought in this old director, old-time player, and now all the fans are like, "What are you doing?" and shit. And they're criticizing it. Maybe it works out. Who knows?
The A's that year got a 21-game win streak, the best in the Major League history. So I will say that. That is a great segue, Gio. Good job. So, let us know in the comments what you think about this. Let's have a conversation about it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you think about Ron Howard? We're going to move on to our books and comics reviews. Jacob Bartley would come in. We're going to be talking Rebel Rising, Darth Vader, Dr. Aphra, Darth Maul. It's going to be super awesome comics and books. Stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome to our Canon Connections spinoff. We got a bunch of books and comics to talk about here. we're going to be starting with Rebel Rising, the new Jyn Erso novel that came out. It focuses on, yeah, nice. It focuses on her from the time that her parents had left her on the planet, from when her mom died, spoiler, until the moments leading up to Rogue One, actually into Rogue One.
Yeah.
This will be a kind of a non-spoiler thought process of the novel. We're going to have our full spoiler review on a Canon Connections episode, which will be uploaded this weekend, going into depth about it and everything. We're just going to give our quick thoughts about here. Jacob, so we read this novel. We were super excited because we had just seen Rogue One. It came out last month, so we spent the whole past 4 weeks reading it, just finished it.
Listening to it.
Listening to it.
Yeah.
We do audiobooks.
It's so hard
yeah.
to remember.
Well,
like,
we
how to
both drive,
stay-
so
exactly,
it works out.
yeah.
So, your quick thoughts of Rebel Rising and how it led into Rogue One.
So I love this book because of its connections to Rogue One and Catalyst, and how if you listen to both of those books and watch Rogue One, it's such a nice little package that you get.
It's like a trilogy almost.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like I look at them like movies in a way. Like that's all one trilogy.
Especially
right
with
there.
the audiobooks.
Yeah, for sure. And it especially because Rebel Rising picks up right after, or at the points right when she leaves, when Saul picks her up, and then leading into Rogue One, like the very beginning of, what's going on in
Yeah,
modern day,
they basically retell the scene of Saw opening the hatch.
Oh yeah, they retell a bunch of scenes in
and the
this book.
scene of
Yeah.
her with Mon Mothma in Rogue One.
Yeah, that scene and the scene of her getting rescued by
Yes,
the rebels. So
yes.
they retell a whole bunch of scenes, and it's really cool because you get to see what was going on inside of Jyn Erso's head during those moments. I love the scene with her and Mon Mothma when they explain the mission to her.
Yeah.
Because now when I watch the movie, I rewatched the movie after I finished listening to the book, and now I'm like, oh, that's what Jyn Erso was thinking at that moment. It makes it so much more powerful. So this is what these books and these comics do. They make the movie material so much more richer, and they flesh it out. And it's kind of unfair because you shouldn't have to read this stuff or listen to this stuff to understand the rest of the world, but it just makes it a lot more better. So this isn't going to be one of my favorite books. It's not going to be in my top 5 favorite books of Star Wars. But just like the Ahsoka novel, it's not a great book, but I loved it because it's about a character that I really care about, and I learned so much more about the wider universe, and that's exactly what Rebel Rising did for me. I learned a lot about Saw Gerrera and her relationship. In Rogue One, my least favorite parts are the scenes with Saw Gerrera, and I didn't understand their relationship
So much
just
better
from
in
those
this.
scenes.
So much better.
It's so much. I would have loved to seen this Saw Gerrera in the movie rather than the over-the-top version that we got in the film. So I really did enjoy this book. If you liked Rogue One, I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, no, I kind of
listening to this
Yeah,
book.
I kind of had the same thoughts, and it's interesting because we do get to feel and hear what Jyn Erso is really thinking.
Yeah,
and throughout the
definitely,
entire book, like all the stuff that happens throughout the entire book, we hear her thoughts and we get a different perspective on her character. In Rogue One, she's a very hardened, character who's had a lot of tragedy in her life. In this book, even though there's a lot of stuff that goes on, she found things that made her happy. And,
little moments.
It drove her to where she is in Rogue One. I do love the retelling of scenes that we've already seen in the movies.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite parts of the book,
Yeah, and I
honestly.
think the stuff with Saw Gerrera was so good. Like you said, I wish we had seen that Saw in the movie. And I also enjoy that it's each book. It's almost like 3 different chapters. Like there's one with Saw, Jyn, and then with stuff with Hatter where they find Hatter and her mother,
and then all the stuff on the 5 point
Exactly.
system.
Like there's just different section. It kind of tells through her
yeah.
life, and it's a big span, obviously. But
and you get a lot of time of her in prison. In the beginning of
Exactly.
Rogue One, she's in prison. She gets broken out. You get a lot of time with her.
when we find out why she ended
Yeah.
up there, and
Yeah.
it's kind of an interesting dynamic as to why she's there.
Exactly.
Which
yeah.
we'll get into in our spoiler discussion. But yeah, overall, Rebel Rising is a really solid entry. And again, like you had said, it's not the best Star Wars book. It's very much like Ahsoka. It's a character study, and
Exactly,
it reveals a little bit more about who she is. It fills the gap of the 16 years that we have from the time she was left from her parents until we see her in Rogue One. So yeah, if you like Rogue One, if you love the character of Jyn Erso, this is definitely something worth picking up.
Yeah, that's what makes it a must read for me. If you really connected with Jyn Erso and you want to learn more about that character, it's a must read. If not, then I wouldn't say you have to read this one.
No.
I would recommend other books before this
Yeah.
one, but definitely if you like Rogue One a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So check out our full spoiler discussion. That'll be up later this weekend on Canon's Connection, a little Padawan spinoff here. We're going to move on to our comics, and we have 3 different series to talk about. Not very many, but first off, we're going to start with Darth Vader #1, the new series. I think the second one just came out this week.
It just came out this week. I haven't read it yet,
Yeah.
but we'll read it. We'll review it on next Padawan, hopefully.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about #1, and this is a very interesting one because it picks up directly after or directly during the events of Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
And it retells a little part of that movie and gives us a different perspective. It makes a little bit of a scene better for us.
Yes, for me it did.
And
definitely.
it kind of creates interesting dynamics going forward for Darth Vader and Palpatine's relationship, in my opinion.
for sure.
But I just love seeing Vader in his prime. This guy, is such an incredible badass. I mean, obviously, we saw in Rogue One what he could do, the kind of damage he can do, and that's later on in his life. Like he was in his 40s. This is like late 20s.
I mean, this is
early
literally
30s.
right after Revenge of the Sith. So however old Anakin was.
Yeah, so he's
when
like
he
late
gets chopped in
20s,
half,
early
this is
30s
how
or
old he
something,
is,
and
yeah.
so I love it. I can't wait to read #2 and 3 and so on because I think Darth Vader, personally, I think he deserves a spin-off movie, but a comics would do for now.
Yeah, for now, definitely.
So I enjoyed it. I can't wait to read #2, and it definitely sets up a different dynamic going forward. Like, are they going to retell things we've already seen in a bigger sense? But what did you think about it?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I like Revenge of the Sith. I like all the prequel movies to a certain extent. Attack of the Clones is hard to say that I like it, but I like parts of it. But Revenge of the Sith is probably the best one.
Yeah.
And it does make a certain moment in Revenge of the Sith better, a certain infamous moment that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
And it also just expands on the relationship between Palpatine and Vader. Like, there's a moment where, I don't want to spoil anything, but like, where basically the Emperor puts Vader in check and he lets him know what's up and like, you don't mess with me, I'm in charge, and Vader respects him, and that's one thing that I always loved about Vader. Like, Vader could probably overpower the Emperor if he wanted to, especially by the time Empire Strikes Back comes around, but he respects the Master Padawan relationship so much, and that's one thing that they'll get to explore further in these comics. I can't wait to read issue #2. This one, it was very short. Like, I'm like, whoa, that's it.
It was like an intro. It was like an epilogue almost.
Yeah, pretty much. So like, this is the beginning of whatever journey they're going to take us on in this comics, and I really liked it. And this is a must read if you're a Vader fan. If you like Revenge of the Sith, if you want to learn more about what happened to him right after that, it's definitely a must read. I'm curious to see. I wonder if they'll dive into him going back to Mustafar and building his castle. Like, how?
I hope so.
How close is that to these events? That would be pretty cool.
I hope so. That would be awesome. So next up, moving on from Vader, we got another Sith Lord, Darth Maul. We got 1, 2, and 3 to talk about. A little non-spoiler discussion here. We're not going to ruin anything, but Darth Maul once again, after being on Rebels, the animated show, and showing up in Clone Wars and all kinds of other stuff, he gets his own comic, which he easily deserves after his shortcoming in the movies. This picks up, before the Phantom Menace.
Before the Phantom Menace,
and
yeah.
so we get to see him really do some cool things in these comics. And it's an interesting dynamic because he actually meets someone from the Clone Wars TV series in issue 2 and then obviously in issue 3. But the story of these so far, and it's not really a spoiler, but he's basically hunting down a Jedi Padawan.
Yeah.
And he's on his own. He's basically disobeying Palpatine and the Emperor. Not the Emperor at the time, but Palpatine.
Oh, yeah.
And he's on his own, and he knows that if the Emperor finds out, or Palpatine finds out, that he's pretty much done for.
Yeah, he says it multiple times. Like, if I get caught, like, the wrath of Palpatine's gonna be endless.
So it's so cool to just see Darth Maul again. Like, he definitely deserves his own comic line, and there's some really cool action in here. We get to see Darth Maul like in his prime, doing things that we've never seen before. Like the very first scene in the first issue, battling that monster, is super, super cool.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so it's so cool. And then issue 2 is really cool. It gets to meet up with Cad Bane from the Clone Wars series.
And
that
Aura
goes on.
Singh.
That's
If
right.
You know her.
That's
I was
right.
doing some research on her, and I didn't know that she used to be a Jedi Padawan.
I did not
she
know that.
actually has a small appearance in the Phantom Menace. She's, I think during the pod race, she's up on one of the balconies watching.
Interesting.
And she's also in Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
She is.
So
well, she's basically a bounty hunter.
and she
now.
becomes a bounty hunter.
She's rolling with Cad Bane.
So she has Force sensitive abilities, which is interesting.
Did not know that.
Yeah, and I think so. They talk about that Boba Fett movie, right?
Yeah.
About with the bounty hunters, and I guess Cad Bane was a mentor to Boba Fett. And so if you could do
that's
a movie,
from the Clone Wars.
If you could do a movie with Cad Bane or Sing Boba Fett, if that's the bounty hunter movie and they have to go on some sort of mission, I think that would be really cool.
Oh, it'd be so cool.
I'm not too familiar with those characters, so this Darth Maul comic is my first experience.
They have that set of bounty hunters. They have a little thing in the Clone Wars. There's like a 4-episode arc in the Clone Wars.
Right,
like
yeah.
that. So yeah, this is something, if you love Darth Maul or any kind of lightsaber Star Wars stuff, this is definitely a comic series to pick up.
Well, again, similar to the Vader comic, you get to see, even though the Emperor and Darth Maul aren't interacting, you get the Darth Maul's thoughts on his relationship with the Emperor. So, again, you get that same type of back and forth between these two characters, and I really like the Emperor with whoever his apprentice is. Like in the books we just read, the Aftermath series, I mean, whoever he takes under his wing, it's always interesting. Like, he always says, don't cross me or else you're going to die, but I really need you to do this for me. So it's always that sort of thing with the Emperor.
Yeah, the 4th issue just came out this week with Vader, and we're going to pick that up and read it. We'll have it by next Padawan.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is definitely something you got to pick up. So
I think this is a must-read no matter what, because especially if you like Darth Maul. And it's weird, it came out in right at the same time of his last appearance on Rebels, so
his final appearance in any Star Wars.
They lined that up
For sure.
perfectly. So
For sure.
we get so much more with Darth Maul, and Darth Maul is one of the reasons why The Phantom Menace is my favorite prequel film. And every scene with Darth Maul I love in that movie, even though he doesn't talk that much. I just love everything Darth Maul.
Yeah, well, his dialogue in these comics is so good.
Oh yeah, it's good. And his thought process.
Yes.
I would love a Darth Maul book because I love being inside Darth Maul's head. He's crazy, but he's so. He's kind of smart in his own way. He's so calculated in everything, and he has certain goals. Like, he doesn't want to take over the galaxy, really. He's always.
He literally wants to kill Jedis.
He's just vengeful. He just wants revenge on whoever. So, yeah, definitely pick this up.
All right, well, moving on from Darth Maul, we got Dr. Aphra, a spin-off character from the most recent Darth Vader series.
The previous Darth Vader that started in 2015.
A little partnership between the two. She now gets her own series, which I think is really, really cool because she is one of the most interesting characters.
Yeah, she's
this new
really
canon,
cool.
This new canon has created. She's such a different character. Not really a doctor in a way. She's almost like an engineer type character.
Yeah, I forget what her profession is.
Not sure.
She's some sort of doctor, but she doesn't have her title of doctor right now.
Yeah, so we meet her, and she's actually rolling with evil C-3PO and evil R2-D2 from the Darth Vader series.
Those droids
and
are awesome.
that massive Wookiee. I forget his name.
Well, it's the one that Obi-Wan fights in one of the Star Wars comics.
He's a bounty hunter, basically.
Yeah, he's a bounty hunter.
So we meet her, and she's in a tough spot. She's doing bounty hunter type things, engineer type of stealing stuff, and I like her just because she's so different and interesting. And if she can be on a good side of Vader, like, how would you not love her?
Yeah, that's true.
Which is, you don't really see very much.
I need to go read that Vader run. I'm going to buy the trades for it and read through it because I want to see what their interactions are like. Because Vader doesn't get along with people.
No. And they were like a partner for a long time.
How did he not kill her? Because if you just piss Vader off a little bit, you're dead. So I want to see how she interacted with Vader.
Well, and she even said in the comics, she was like, "Oh, who's hunting me down? Vader is the only one I know where I am."
Yeah.
But he wouldn't do that. Like, they have a good relationship between the two.
That's interesting.
For me, the best part of these two comics so far, issue 1 and issue 2, is Zero, the evil C-3PO.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
He is fan. His dialogue is so good.
Great. Yeah,
the comedic lines, like, he literally just wants to kill anything in sight.
Yeah, any chance he gets, or even just torture somebody.
And he has like these Wolverine needles
he has
coming
all
out of
these
his fingers.
little tools that come out, a bunch of stuff.
And then obviously you'd have the evil R2-D2, how he kind of counters off of it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I mean, what is your favorite part of these two issues? So far?
I just like Dr. Aphra as a character because we don't really have this type of character in any Star Wars canon yet. She's kind of like a Laura Croft or Indiana Jones type character.
She's like an archaeologist almost.
Yeah, she is, and she's interacting with Luke and Han in the Star Wars comics right now. So she's very interesting because she's able to go work with the Empire, work with Vader, then work with the Rebels, work with Han and Luke. So how does she go back and forth without getting any conflict?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. So I want to go back and read all of her appearances in the comics. She's one of those characters where I'm like, you could bring her into live action without it being weird. You know, there's certain characters that it'd be difficult to bring into live action, but I don't think she would be. Like, let's say they do that Bounty Hunter movie, and maybe she makes a cameo or something like that. Like
they
I don't
need her
know
for
if the
something.
time era would match
Yeah.
up, but what if she's just one of the members of the team or something like that? That would be pretty cool. So she's a very cool character, and she's actually getting a lot of popularity right now.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
Star Wars right now with Kathleen, they're actually on a high of these female leads.
Oh, definitely.
Who knows in the
Like
future?
they're doing so much good stuff on the outside canon stuff
Yeah.
with these female characters, especially
With
with
Sloane
and
Aftermath.
Dr. Aphra.
Yeah.
Like it's so cool, and I those are two characters I would love to see in live action. for
So
sure.
one thing that really stood out to me in issue 2 was the ending of the, and I forget how to pronounce the name, but those ancient Jedi
Oh yeah,
with
yeah,
lightsabers. Like, I want to know more about that.
That's
in
the
the
cool
future.
thing. Like, you could take this side character, right, and she doesn't necessarily have anything to do with that stuff, but because we see her interact with her father, who has a lot of knowledge about all that stuff, and you get to learn, even if you're reading a comic or a book that doesn't have to do with like anything from in the past, you can still learn little details about all these different things about the galaxy of Star Wars. Like one little sentence could like explain one little thing about Star Wars. So you never know what you're going to get in any comic or book. You learn so much about the galaxy overall.
Definitely.
And there's a lot of that in these comics.
Yeah, so these 3 series, Darth Vader, Darth Maul, and Dr. Aphra, I think are definitely worth picking up. They are all fantastic, so different from each other too.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, such a good thing that Lucasfilm is doing with these new canon, and Marvel, of course, who publishes it.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's gonna wrap up our books and comics. Jacob, thank you for joining me for
Of
these.
course,
man.
yeah,
We're
I'm
gonna keep
always
doing
down
this.
to talk the canon stuff.
Yeah.
I love everything canon in Star Wars. I would read and watch it all if I could.
Yeah, we're gonna keep doing this on Padawan, obviously, and Jacob's gonna join us, of course. He's always on Padawan. But check out our Canon Connection on Rebel Rising, where we go into full details on Rebel Rising, Universal novel. We're gonna jump back right to Gio and Keith. They're gonna join me back. Jacob, thank you again.
Of course. See you guys next time.
All right, boys, welcome back. Okay, out of those 3 comics and maybe the Rebel Rising novel, what stood out to you the most? Keith, go ahead.
Definitely Rebel Rising. I'm a big fan of Jyn Erso, and reading Catalyst,
Yeah.
where that ended off from the beginning of Rogue One.
Oh,
was
yeah.
Definitely some stuff I was interested in.
Yeah.
What was
Any
happening.
of the comics?
So comics, absolutely Dr. Aphra.
Which is pretty cool.
I've read a few issues of the last Vader
The
series.
Darth Vader stuff, yeah.
And so you guys are right. They did have an interesting relationship.
Well, and that Darth Vader kept her alive.
And he
That's
kept
just
her
interesting.
around. He kept her. He always kept her right on the edge of "I will kill you."
Yeah, just don't cross me.
But,
Like a
yeah,
Palpatine thing.
Very
Yeah.
much like that.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to read that too.
Gio, what do you think, man?
Oh, definitely the Darth Vader. I feel like the
Yeah.
movies, you can't get enough of Darth Vader, and I definitely want to know what goes on inside his mind, like
For sure.
because he just seems like he's ready to pop at any moment, you know, and like kill you. And we've seen that in spoilers, some of the Rebel episodes.
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, and this is interesting
Yeah, I
because
don't
this
wanna
is
say,
this is right after he becomes Vader.
right,
Like
right.
directly after, and obviously the Padme stuff happened from episode 3. So
he's pissed.
Oh, yeah, he's got
about
some
getting
serious
his
anger
ass
on him,
handed to
so-
yeah.
yeah,
Well, we saw that in Empire Strikes Back, where anybody that messed up, he just
Yeah.
all right,
yeah.
So
So no, it's very interesting stuff. So well, that's gonna wrap up Padawan today. I'd like to thank both Gio and Keith, and of course Jacob for joining me today. Gio, let them know where they can find you online, man.
Hey, look, Lucasfilm, I love you, okay? But I gotta call you out sometimes, okay? I don't get this opportunity a lot, okay? You guys are great. You can find me on Twitter at GeoDude90 and check out apocalypsemovies.com for editorials, news, write-ups, all that good stuff.
Keith?
you can find me on Keith Barnes on Twitter at Keith
On
Barnes,
Keith Barnes at
on
Twitter.
Keith Barnes at Twitter. At Keith Barnes 79 on the Twitter.
All right, and me, Qui-Gon Jake, Twitter, Instagram at Qui-Gon Jake. Check out apocalypsemovies.com. Gio, myself, and Brian doing all kinds of cool articles, all kinds of new content here on Apocalypse, new trying some new things. Check out our brand new channel trailer, kind of explaining what we are and our new thing going on here. Once again, thank you. May the Force be with you.